I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume, so I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. We're continuing with our Gospels, and of course, Christ is still in Galilee, centered around Capernaum, a lot of preaching, a lot of miracles, a lot of parables. The last miracles we read were the healing of the Canaanite woman's daughter and the feeding of the 4,000. We also read about the testimony of Peter. Who say men that I am, and who say you that I am? And Peter's response, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Now we are reading, or we did read in Matthew, the story of the Mount of Transfiguration. We are now going to read the same story in Mark. See if we can't read anything new. See if we can't glean any new information, any new insight. In this video, we have a Joseph Smith translation. Now, what the Joseph Smith translation is, this is a translation or correction done by Joseph Smith to restore those passages that have been lost or corrupted over the years. Mark chapter 9, verses 1 through 13. And he said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that there be some of them that stand here which shall not taste of death till they have seen the kingdom of God come with power. Okay, we're going to pause just for a minute. This is actually part of the whole story of the keys of the kingdom and Peter's testimony of Christ. In Luke and Matthew, this little piece here about people not dying until Christ returns, that was part of the reading we did regarding the testimony of Peter. But they were in the same, in Matthew and Luke, this part is in the same chapter as that reading. Here, it's in a different chapter, so we just include it here. I didn't want to read in Mark 8 and just add one verse from 9 into that last reading. So maybe I should have, and I'm getting long-winded here, kind of rattling on, so let us move on. Verse 2. And after 6 days Jesus taketh with him Peter and James and John, and leadeth them up into an high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his raiment became shining, exceeding white as snow, so as no fuller on earth can white them. And there appeared unto them Elias with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. And Peter answered and said to Jesus, Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 tabernacles, one for thee, and one for Moses, and one for Elias. For he wist not what to say, for they were sore afraid. And there was a cloud that overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud, saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him. And suddenly, when they had looked round about, they saw no man any more, save Jesus only with themselves. And as they came down from the mountain, he charged them that they should tell no man what things they had seen, till the Son of Man were risen from the dead. And they kept that saying with themselves, questioning one with another what the rising from the dead should mean. So this basically says the same thing that Matthew says. We don't really get any new information here. It does again indicate that they appeared to all of them, to Jesus and Peter, James, and John. They spoke with Jesus, but like I said, this seems to be when Peter, James, and John received the keys of the gathering and the sealing, which Moses and Elias restore. But I do like that statement there from Peter. Peter says, let us build these tabernacles. And he says it not because he wants to worship Elias and Moses, but he just has no idea what to say. He's seeing angels appear to him. He hasn't heard the voice of God yet, but he's seeing this, and it says, these guys are scared. It's like, what's going on here? What do we say? What do we say? What do we do that? It's just, Peter he was for a loss of words, but he felt like he should say something, and so he just kind of said the first thing that came to him. But I also like that in verse 10, that they're questioning what he means by rising from the dead. Even now, they don't quite understand what Christ is going to do, what his ministry is. He's told them a couple of times, I think this is the second, maybe third time that he's told them, I'm going to die, and I'm going to raise myself from the dead. They're still not quite understanding that. They still don't quite get the concept. And I don't blame them. The resurrection itself is a hard concept to even visualize unless you've seen a resurrected being. I have not, so don't ask me anything about what resurrected beings are like, because I have not had that privilege. Neither Peter, James, or John at this point. it's a concept that is just too hard to grasp. And so they're wondering, what is he talking about? Let us read the rest of this here, starting in verse 11. And they asked him, saying, Why say the scribes that Elias must first come? And he answered and told them, Elias verily cometh first, and restoreth all things, and how it is written of the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things, and be set at naught. But I say unto you, that Elias is indeed come, and they have done unto him whatsoever they listed, as it is written of him. Basically the same as in Matthew, although in this one it does say that Elias has come to restore all things and kind of reveal the doctrine of Christ. So that's a little bit different, but nothing significant. So we will now look at the Joseph Smith translation of Mark. In verse 1, we have, and he said unto them again. So that word again is added in there. In verse 2, this is interesting. It now reads, And after 6 days Jesus taketh Peter and James and John, who asked him many questions concerning his sayings, and Jesus leadeth them up into a high mountain. So this makes it appear that up to this point, of course, Christ, he's the leader, he's God, but the other 12 are just apostles. There is no president at this time. But these are the 3 who are the most inquisitive, the most curious, they're the ones looking for the truth, the most trying to understand. That is why they are selected. That is why they are brought up to the Mount of Transfiguration. And maybe this is where they're actually set apart as the first presidency of their day. Now in verse 3, the last clause there has a few corrections. It's now, so white as no fuller on earth could white them. Minor grammatical. In verse 4, we do have this, And there appeared unto him Elias and Moses, or in other words, John the Baptist and Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. Now, that's an interesting one. It's John the Baptist, because it's Elias, and John the Baptist was Elias, but where's Elijah then? I think that all 3 of them were there. You had Moses, Elijah, and John the Baptist. Moses and Elijah were there to restore keys. John the Baptist was there as a spectator. He was dead. He had no physical body. He couldn't restore keys at this time. He was there as a witness to the events. But we move on. In verse 6, wist is corrected to new. In verse 8, has a few here, so it says, And suddenly, when they had looked round about with great astonishment, they saw no man any more, save Jesus only with themselves. And immediately they departed. So, a little clarification, that the cloud comes down, they hear the voice of God, and when the cloud rises, they're looking around, okay, what just happened? And only Christ is there. They had all these angels there. They heard the voice of God, and now everything's gone except Christ. He's no longer transfigured. And like, okay, what just happened? And Christ says, okay, we're leaving, and they leave. In verse 9, at the end, instead of till the Son of Man were risen, it is corrected to till the Son of Man was risen, a minor grammatical change. But 12 and 13 are interesting as well. Let's read these. And he answered and told them, saying, Elias verily cometh first, and prepareth all things, and teacheth you of all prophets, how it is written of the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things, and be set at naught. Again I say unto you, that Elias is indeed come, but they have done unto him whatsoever they listed, and even as it is written of him, and he bore record of me, and they received him not. Verily this was Elias. Now that is interesting there. Here it does correct it to him preparing all things, and teaching you the truth of what the prophets said. And he testified of me, but they've killed him. But I'm going to leave that here because things are getting very loud outside the house. I think construction is being started out here, out the window. So I'll leave it here. The next video we do will be reading the same story again in Luke. So I will see you there.